Last time on Skoolie Life, I spent a couple of days in Grand Junction doing some repairs on the motorcycle, my phone, and my bus before heading south and on a hunch turning up into Grand Mesa National Forest. And I say hunch loosely because I did spend an hour driving around west of the Grand Mesa in the desert and could not really find anything interesting. And I wound up on top of the mesa at a campground as the sun was starting to go down. You actually pay for this campground, and there's livestock rolling across the entire campground every morning, every evening. These cows come rolling through here, and normally I enjoy wildlife. I'm just not too much of a fan of livestock, so it was kind of a surprise. Although the cows were looked like they were relatively conditioned to people. Like most cows are, they were a little bit spooked. The closer I got, the more spooked they got. But you could tell that this was part of their grazing. Their pasture was the forest, and this is probably just some rancher that brings his cattle up during the summer before it starts snowing, and probably loads them all up before it snows and takes them back down. You see a lot of this out west, especially in I saw a lot in Utah, especially around the Moab area. But it was kind of odd being in a campground and seeing anything other than deer and elk and rabbits and birds. So quite an interesting experience. But I did had a nice night there. Watched the sun go down on a beautiful lake. It was a little bit crowded with people, but it still was good enough. Spent the next day exploring before moving camp, and it seems like everything else on the mesa was probably as good or better a campground than what I stayed in, and it wasn't real hard to find something exceptional. I would say I rode a lot of the mesa the next morning up into the afternoon, and I decided to move camp shortly after to a better location that was just above a lake. Some of these roads is kind of tricky to get the bus into, so that's why it's really good to have a motorcycle, some alternate transportation to be able to see, not only find the good spots, but to have a way of turning around. My 30-foot bus is not very agile, as you will see here shortly. But this is the camp spot that I eventually wound up on, just above a really nice lake that there were tons of people in. This may not have been the best spot, as I wasn't paying attention to what was on my right as I back into the spot, because straight ahead there's a cattle trailer coming down the road, pretty good clip. I thought I could get in and get out before he got there, but my the rush here made me clip the front of the bus. It could have been a lot more damage than it was, but just been in a panel just in front of the bus, it could have crushed that window easily. I guess that's one of the things you learn about driving a bus, is the front and the rear hang out maybe a little bit further than you're used to. But finally got parked and got settled in here, and was able to explore the next day. Get my bike fixed even. It's a great camping spot. God damn it! It's Sunday in Grand Mesa National Park. This is day 2. I stayed last night at the campground, which is pretty unusual for me. I probably don't do a campground once a month, maybe, and that's kind of stretching it. Probably every other month I may hit a campground. Most of the time because it's my only option, or it's something spectacular, or I'm in a rush and I want to unload my bike. And that's kind of what happened this time. And, you know, it was a nice lake. I mean, it was a nice campground. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just crammed full of people. And when I was leaving the day, everybody was leaving, and and Sunday. That's everybody comes in on the weekend and leaves into the weekend. But I figured I'd have the place to myself. But I just don't like campgrounds. I don't like being close to people, unless they have motorcycles or boats. As I was coming back towards camp, I was scouting out some new parking / camping locations, and more remote boondocking, or as the Forest Service calls it, dispersed camping. That's what I was looking for, and I turned up the opposite side of the mountain, the road I came up on this side, and saw the sign. I was like, well, let me go check this out. It was pretty rough, but I decided to head on up. I figured it would run into my campground and get me pretty close anyway. So, it was a good choice because the bike overheated, and I realized the fan had come apart. Imagine that, a computer fan, a CPU fan at that. I think the case fans are a little bit more hardy, but this thing, and this, if I'd have bought this fan locally, it probably would have cost me as much as the fan that I did buy locally. I found almost an exact match, at least to the fan motor. So I'd called the place the day before I left Grand Junction, and he pulled out a fan that was just way too big, and I decided to go by there and get some oil because they seem like nice folks, and they've got a salvage yard, which is kind of interesting. But I wanted to see what their operation was all about. But the guy looked at me when I brought the fan in. He looked at the fan that I brought in and said, "Follow me." We went out there, found a four-wheeler. The fan motor is exactly the same. I can't see any difference other than that connector. But the only difference that I can see is the actual fan is much bigger. The actual fan itself is much bigger, as you can see, and the shroud is bigger. But if this thing fires up and I can fit this somehow in that behind the radiator, I'm gonna make a custom mount like I made for that stupid fan. And cross your fingers, if this goes in there at all, I'm gonna have me under the fan. So first things first is to fire this thing up. But before I do all that, I just wanted to brag on my little awesome location. I am camping in aspens, and these are some big ass aspens. I don't remember seeing aspens this big very often. Anyway, there's spruce and fir around here, and this, what I suspect could be the rock collapse. I don't think it was above a lake. The guy, I was in the visitor center, and a guy was showing the 3D map of the park. He was talking about a rock collapse, a side of a mountain collapsed, killed 3 people. I don't think this is it because it was on some kind of creek, and I don't think there's a creek here. The lake is over that way, but I don't know. Obviously this thing's collapsed a few times probably, but I would think the last time it collapsed was the last, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years ago. I don't know. But they've obviously moved all that rock that probably fell down here and moved it and made a little parking spot for me. So I'm pretty excited about that. Well, I've installed my four-wheeler fan, and it was even easier than the computer fan, mainly because I didn't have to build a bracket. The fan doesn't fit. I can't turn it any direction to get even one hole to line up, so I pushed it up in there to see where to make the brackets, and it was such a tight fit that the bolts almost wouldn't go on. But I realized if I pushed the radiator into the fan, kind of pressed the fan into the frame, it didn't move. So far so good. I got it to come on the top of the hill, and it doesn't seem like it's sliding around. The only thing I'm worried about now is since the fan is plastic and it's connected, it's bolted on, well, pressed on to the radiator. There it goes. It really sounds like a fan. So I'm excited. Hopefully the plastic won't melt, but you know, maybe if the plastic frame melts, maybe the fan's not doing its job properly. I don't know. I'm thinking, I mean, it's aluminum fins. How hot could they actually get? I mean, they're supposed to radiate heat, but I don't know. All I know is no temperature light yet. After exploring the top of the mesa the next day, riding through all the aspens and looking at the spectacular views, I found one that was just simply amazing. I'd seen this before, but there was somebody camped at the site that I wanted, and this was the day that I realized that camper had moved on. And this was one of the few sites that I saw in the entire forest that was anything close to this. And once I saw the storms rolling in, I knew I had to relocate. Even though I was in a pretty good spot, I knew I had to move to this spot just because these spots are so rare. It's a cloudy, overcast, about to be rainy day, and yet it's just fan-freaking-tastic. I'm doing some time lapse here, and I'm afraid to move the camera. I want to get some more stuff, but that incoming, the incoming rain, I always love that. It never comes in fast. It always just kind of hangs there. This is kind of coming, but it's still with this. Oh, look at the dust that's kicking up off the desert floor there. And that's desert. We're in the forest up here. But you just go down the hill, go down the mesa. I think it's 4,000 feet. Drop down to about 6,000 feet from 10,000. That's desert. All that on that side of Colorado is desert. So just when I pulled the motorcycle out to test the fan, the new fan, this morning, and as soon as I saw this side, I was like, this is perfection. So another storm's coming. You can see back here. We're about to get wet, but I can't think of a better place to be parked and watching the storm come in. I mean, this is just fantastic. Grand Mesa, Colorado. Middle of a storm. I would call this a light storm, but a lot of wind and a lot of dust down there. And there's rain that's coming here. Looks like kind of hard to see as it's coming down towards your head. Gonna have to pack up here shortly. This eagle doesn't slow him down at all. I think he's digging this wind. He can go wherever he wants to. Just sticks his arms out and kind of hovers. He can shoot over to the other side of the mountain. No effort at all, just kind of hanging. pelted with dust and small rocks, and I think it's mostly organic. I think it's just a bunch of leaves and shit, but it's hitting me in the face so hard that it's bound to gonna be hitting me in the eye. And you need something that seals the sides, because you can get shit coming in behind sunglasses or anything like that. So goggles is a good choice when you're standing on the edge. Behind me over here is Montezuma's cave. Montezuma, if you'll remember, built the Egyptian pyramids before fleeing for his life to the Americas to build Aztec pyramids. That's what I was told. I can't think of a better day to be running around bird watching. Do I look like a bird watcher? One of my most favorite visitor center. Man, I've been to so many nice visitor centers in the forest. I understand national parks. Apparently, national parks got huge budgets because they've got huge income from fees. And I'm trying to think. It seems like Yellowstone was like $35 to get into Yellowstone. So, I don't know, just sure is quiet. It's almost 6, I think. Yeah, quarter after 6. Visitor centers close at 5. And the only reason I'm here is to upload some video and catch up on some emails and send. I'm actually doing business because I've decided that it's so freaking awesome up here. There's no reason for me to keep moving up and down hills. I'm just gonna try to see what I can see from here. Probably put a little bit more miles on the bike, streetwise, but maybe I can find some dirt to connect the forest. There's like, what is the White National Forest, Gunnison, and Grand Mesa are all right here connected, and they do some kind of looping stuff. I'm not really sure what that's all about, but see this fantastic lake. I'm gonna have to paddle one of these lakes before I go. This visitor center, mainly because it's got really fast Wi-Fi, and I'm uploading a video right now, so just a quick time lapse I shot and edited before I got on the bike. I had to get up here. I had to get out and see the reality, and the reality is it's apparently has been raining everywhere except where I'm camped, and I got a few sprinkles there, but nothing big deal. Sadly, on the way back to camp, I punctured my tire and tube and lost the valve stem and had to hitchhike back to the bus to retrieve my motorcycle. So I wound up just staying at the visitor center that night, and then figuring it out in the morning. So I'm outside the visitor center in Grand Mesa, and I overnighted here because I figured that the air was coming out of the valve stem so fast that I figured it was probably something dramatic, and obviously it is. If you look, first thing I did is getting ready to pull the tire off the rim, and there's this big gash right here. Looks like maybe, who the hell knows, that could have been from the jack stand that wiggled loose and cut into the tire. Anyway, it was obviously it was enough to puncture the tube on the inside too. So, and I need a new tire. I can't ride on that. I mean, I've got a spare 10% tire over there, and hell, this thing's only 2 months old, and it's it's probably 40-50%. So anyway, I'm gonna make some calls and find out who's got a 18-inch tire that I can pick up. It's either going to be Grand Junction or Montrose. Montrose has got 2 or 3 tire stores. That's south, that's the direction I'm going in. And I'm probably not coming back up here. So Sadly, I'm not going to get to explore the stuff that I wanted to explore, but I saw a fantastic storm last night. I really wanted to hang out and camp last night, but anyway. Grand Mesa is amazing. The visitor center is closing in 3 weeks, so that gives you an idea. The locals that I talked to said mid-October is when it starts snowing up here, and it gets pretty thick up here. I think they said 40 feet of snow every year up here. It's just spectacular, and I hadn't had a chance to take the boat off or anything. Yeah, anyway, I think it's just another place I'm gonna have to bypass. I just got a little bitty taste, and that's, you know, I get little bitty tastes of a lot of stuff. I just hate that I'm missing out on something magnificent like this. And you know, hell, I missed northern Colorado, almost all of northern Colorado, because of repair issues, bike issues, and I'm finally whittling them down and getting rid of them, and more shit keeps popping up. So, but we'll just keep driving south, hopefully. May have to go back up to Grand Junction, but Grand Junction's that way, Montrose is that way. Either way, you know, Grand Junction's only an hour and a half back from where I came, but the main thing is to get a tire back on the bike. So join me next time on Skoolie Life as I head south into Montrose and spend 2 weeks hanging out, camped in downtown Montrose at a motorcycle shop, exploring all over western Colorado and into Utah even. Join me then, it's fantastic.